Excited to talk to him. Maurice Clarett joins us on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Maurice, thanks for joining me this morning. How you feeling?
I'm feeling real good. I want to say thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, no, I know that you've had a lot of things go on in your life. I started my show this morning talking about some of these young quarterbacks and the issues that they face and relating to people and media and teammates and it eventually led to a conversation about their fathers. So I grew up without my father. He left when we were young, or actually my mom and he decided to split when we were young. I just reconnected with him, and it was eye opening. I wonder, the influences early in your life, do you think that they affected some of the mistakes that you ultimately fell into?
Oh yes, very much so. I think just not having that male presence around for a lot of young kids, not only for myself, it just affects the development on the individual level, be it personally, be it emotionally, be it socially, be it that when it's time to accept authority or just sort of have that sort of discipline in your life. Just to give an actual picture to them, you have a lot of kids who come from single-parent homes, and a lot of times your mother's off working or doing what she's doing to provide.
Yep.
And a lot of times the kid is left to sort of take to football, basketball, or the streets or so forth and so on. And that's a lot of cases with these kids who end up on college campuses. If you go and sort of look into the background, a lot of these kids come from similar paths. And when I ask that question, and I always tell them that, even though you come from that, even when you've come from that, please understand when you emerge into college athletics, there's a lot that you have missing internally that you don't, that isn't made aware to you because football becomes the dominant thing and covers up so much. But the short answer is yes, but, I can kind of dig into that. You can have a whole story about that, but I definitely believe those things ultimately help you to develop and become who you are. And some things, like I say, socially and emotionally and just from a discipline standpoint, we're not as developed.
Yeah.
So, at times we get into the spotlight and, we don't have the mechanics or the skills to think outside of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, you end up not knowing how to act, right? And you end up falling back on a cool pose that sports gave you. When you got involved with sports, what was that? What did it feel like to you? You know what I mean? Because I remember when me and my brother got into sports, it was like, wow, this is an outlet, right? This is where I can express myself and I can be, as wild or crazy or whatever it is that I want to be. And I think I also found some father figures there as well. What was your early sports life like?
Very, very much the same way. It's the only place that you have, well, in my case, where I had a positive black male figure in my life who was giving me instruction, who was giving me discipline. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it gave you a chance to express yourself. And, sports is nothing more than just you expressing thought or you expressing just how you feel. Right before a play, you feel a certain way, and then you perform and you express yourself within that fashion. And I think sport does that for everybody. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, but it gives that escape away from everything that you seem to be dealing with, or not like in a negative way, but
Yeah.
no matter what's going on, you can get on that field, and whether it was a good day, bad day, or whatever, just the act of physically going out there, competing, running, laughing, joking, being tired, picking yourself up, there's something special and spiritual about that.
Yeah, no, there certainly is. Maurice Clarett, former Ohio State running back. His website, MauriceClarettonline.com. You should check it out because he's doing some pretty amazing things right now, taking this story to kids who need it. So we all go to college, right? And you go to college, you go to Ohio State. You're all of a sudden, you're unproctored, right? So that your mom, who, even though she was working, was still there to whoop your ass when you needed to get it whooped. But you go to college, right? And that's not there anymore. And coaches can only be so much in your life. And sometimes you have success, and then there becomes missteps. I know that you've been speaking at colleges. I saw a lot of the pictures with you at Jimbo Fisher down at Florida State. What are you saying to these kids? I mean, because you have to keep it real with them, but you also have to talk to them from a level that gives some authoritative examples. What's your message to these kids?
There's multiple messaging, but I think one thing I was trying to illustrate and get across is that, being able to distinguish that, who you are and what you do are two different things, and being able to say, hey, we focus a lot of time on the athletic piece and we focus a lot of time on academics, and for football players in large part, the academics, they don't serve as some space where they want to be a skilled professional, but more as a vehicle to help them play the actual game.
Yeah.
And inside of doing all of that, we don't know who we are because we do so much in trying to chase this allure of the game, or we're trying to be part of that 2% who makes it on.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, personally, as a juvenile, I got incarcerated, right?
Yep.
But after I got incarcerated as a juvenile, I became very good at football. And it escalated in high school. I became Mr. Everything in high school. Then I went to college, but I never corrected the bad behavior or the thinking errors that I had as a kid. And so essentially when football was taken away, that same little boy surfaced again. And it was the little boy that came to assess problems and the little boy that came to figure out life. And I was just dealing in my primitive nature and sort of this juvenile way of thinking. And so I illustrated, make analogies from my own story. And I tell these guys that a person sort of draws themselves into the story more, and they ask themselves, man, when have I ever thought about this? When have I ever thought about who I am outside of this game? And we give the real statistics on the NFL, and guys who actually make it, but those who do make it don't stay very long.
Yep.
And even if you had an illustrious career, you're still in your 30s, your early 30s when you finish. And who are you? You know what I'm saying?
You got a lot of life to live still.
I have a lot of life to live, and you have to understand within that space who you are.
Yeah.
At 23, I had no clue as to what integrity was.
Yeah.
I had no clue what accountability was, and I had no framework on just what it was to be a productive man. And as a result, I started to understand why I failed so much in the past.
Yeah. So Maurice Clarett here again on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. You went to jail. I mean, a lot of guys get in trouble and they do stupid stuff, but it was a spiral that started with getting suspended from the team, and then there was a drug and alcohol issue, and then a robbery, and then all this other. You went to jail. What I can't even imagine what that would be like for someone who was a star in college football, won a national championship, and 2 years later you're in jail.
Yeah, just it seems unreal even to think about it sometimes. But to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure you've heard of something being a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
But jail had given me just space to think. My first 7 months of my incarceration were spent being locked down 23 hours of the day, and it was the first time that I ever read a book in my life. Outside of school, I've never read a book, outside of school for recreation or just for self-educating purposes. But it was the first time I had a chance to read a book and just discover, how my mind worked. Then when I went on to prison, I probably read, I like to guesstimate about 250, 300 books. And I would just study and write notes and realize there was so much more to me than just being a football player. And essentially, man, I just started to function in a different place, and I didn't identify with football anymore. I got counseled and mentored and went to a bunch of coursework throughout prison with a bunch of guys in there. I started to facilitate my own coursework and my own classes when I was in prison. A lot of stuff with behavioral health and teaching of cognitive skills, sort of how the brain worked and how it operated into your daily behavior. And I just became a brand new individual. And for me, it was like necessary evil.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had kept on going down the path I was going to, I probably would have been in jail for much longer or dead. But, I spent 4 years. And, after those 4 years, I felt refreshed. I felt happy. I felt a lot more stable mentally in regards to what it was that I could do and accomplish. I didn't have that hopeless feeling after football was gone that a lot of us have. Initially, once the game is gone, we don't know what to do because it encompasses so much. But, for me, it was a blessing. I didn't see it like that on the front end of it. But once I embraced the process of the whole rehabilitating yourself, my life started to change.
Yeah. And I'm interested, Maurice. I know you still follow sports. It's in your blood. It's like mine.
Yeah,
It never leaves you. We recently saw Chris Carter, who I love, and he had his demons as well. But he said something that I thought was irresponsible. He said every guy, all you guys, need to have a fall guy, like someone to blame. What do you think when you hear something like that? And I know Chris, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best to play the games, particularly in Minnesota. But what are your thoughts after what you've gone through? You hear something like that.
Yeah, I recently heard it, and I'm pretty sure if he can go back, he would probably he probably would have said something different. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't condemn him or call or make it seem any worse than what it is. We're all irresponsible at some point. So we can't take like one moment and sort of paint a guy's life. But each man has to take responsibility for their actions, and I think that's ultimately how we grow. You take responsibility for what it is that you bring to the table or what situation that you create, and you learn from it. And if it happens to result in some circumstances or some experiences that are unfavorable to you, then you fix the behavior, you fix the correction in thought. But you don't need a fall guy.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm pretty sure Chris is he might be regretful of that. And, just like anything else, just because you're older, just because you went through and you got in the gold jacket, it doesn't merit any sort of intellectual capacity.
Yeah.
We all have thinking errors, and we all into our 30s, 40s, and even 50s. You'll do something that may be irresponsible for the moment, and it's not to excuse him and his behavior, but it's to say, like, everybody does things against their better judgment or against their better thinking, and that's that. Usually, like you say, you can't stall somebody for forever, but I'm pretty sure if you ask Chris right now, he like, hey, I wasn't in the best of everything, but I'm not going to throw rocks at the man.
Yeah, no, you can't. Maurice Clarett, Ohio State running back, former Ohio State running back, and I believe your life is on path now. What are you doing? How are you fulfilling the person that you have become since all of the troubles you went through?
In a few different ways. One, proud father of a little girl, 9 years old, and my wife, Ashley. We have a beautiful family together. Outside of that, I have a packaging company. I've been into packaging for a little bit, for close to 2 years now. I've done over $1 million in business with some premier companies throughout the country. Deal with packaging. I have a transportation logistics service where I have a few cargo vans and sprinter vans, and we transport medium to large size packages. We also do some expediting work. And it's sort of like my fulfilling work that most people know me for is actually speaking. I had no choice, or I had no intention of wanting to speak. Kind of happened just through circumstance. But that's sort of like my fulfilling work. When I get around here, I get a chance to explain to these guys there's much more to sports. There's much more than just this game of football. There's much more than this. And trying to motivate these guys and to connect with these guys that, be mindful of your coursework, be mindful of you growing yourself as an individual, because you're an athlete out here and you have some social equity.
Yeah.
You can walk into a million doors that a lot of people couldn't walk into, and if you had the wherewithal to do business or the wherewithal to carry yourself appropriately, then there's people who want to do business with you, or you can just sort of secure and take care of your future like that.
Yeah, of course. You
And
build
so,
your brand. You build your brand, and it
Yeah.
lasts forever. Do you ever get back to Ohio State?
I get back to Ohio State through the office, through the Todd Bell Resource Center, and I get back through my guy, Dr. James Moore, Dr. Robert Bennett, Morris Council, and Prince Moody, but not in particularly with the football team. The football team is kind of like its own thing or its own isolated deal over there.
Would you like to get back in there? Would you like to go back and see those kids?
Yes, it's always fun, but, just my messaging has transcended just one place. It would sound good in theory that, since I had so many troubles here, that it would be great to come back to the place where it all originated from. But, I never lose sight in the moment that your message is for everyone, not just for a specific university, for those in need. And in that case, I would love to go back if ever invited. But if I'm not invited, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me, and I will go to any university and help kids, because ultimately it's just about these kids figuring this thing out, this thing in life out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Maurice Clarett, I appreciate you joining me this morning, and I'm glad that you found your way. It's sometimes you hear these stories, guys disappear from whatever heights they were at, and you never hear from them again. I'm glad you're doing the right thing, and I hope you continue to do it. Good luck, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on again.
Take care, Maurice.